Today, we are tackling a mystery that I think is going to resonate with, well, a lot of you. It is what I like to call the smart person's paradox.
It's a fascinating phenomenon, isn't it?
Hmm.
And honestly, it's a bit of a painful one for the people who are actually, experiencing it.
It really is. I mean, here's the scenario. You have someone who is objectively brilliant. I'm talking about a software engineer who can code complex algorithms in their sleep, or maybe a mathematician or researcher.
Right. They're problem solvers, they're analytical. They're the ones you go to when you need a really complex system explained.
Exactly. But, and here's the twist, you put them in a coffee shop and ask them to order a latte in English or maybe in a casual meeting with international colleagues, and they just crumble.
They freeze up, they stumble, their fluency just isn't there.
It's like their IQ drops 50 points the moment they switch languages. And the question we are digging into today is just, why? Why do really smart people struggle so much with English fluency?
It's the question that drives so many high achievers absolutely crazy. And I think the first thing we need to do is clear up a huge misconception. If you're listening to this and you feel like you are stuck, I want you to know this. The struggle has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence.
That is a relief to hear, honestly, because it feels like a failure of intelligence when it happens. You're standing there, you can't find a simple word, and you just feel, well, not smart.
It feels like that, yes. But the reality is actually the opposite. In a lot of cases, your intelligence is the obstacle. The problem isn't your capability, it's your strategy.
And that's what we're going to unpack. We have a stack of research here, articles on linguistics, cognitive psychology, all sorts of things, that argues that analytical minds are, well, they're using the wrong tools for the job.
So we're going to look at why the smart approach fails, and then we are going to lay out a roadmap to fix it.
And I promise, no heavy theory today. This is all about practical, actionable insights. We just want to get you unstuck.
Exactly. We need to move away from the traditional textbook advice and look at the psychology of the learner, because usually the barrier is in the mind, not in the mouth.
Okay, let's unpack this. The first big concept from our sources is something called the intelligence trap. It sounds a little ominous.
It does, but it explains so much. I mean, think about how smart people are trained. From the time you were in school all the way through your career, what are you rewarded for?
Getting the right answer. Precision. Logic. Not making mistakes. If I'm an accountant, I don't get points for a creative tax return. I get points for it being correct.
Precisely. You get the A on the test because you solved the equation correctly. You get the promotion because your code had 0 bugs. You are trained to value correctness above everything else.
Which is fantastic for engineering.
It's essential for medicine. You certainly don't want a surgeon who is learning through trial and error on your appendix.
With them or not.
But for language learning, that mindset is a disaster.
Because language isn't math.
Right. Language is messy. It's emotional. It's context-dependent. And it is flexible. It doesn't behave like a clean, linear equation. But the analytical learner tries to treat it like one.
Oh, they try to build the perfect sentence in their head before they even open their mouth.
They want to solve the sentence like a math problem.
I have definitely been there. You're standing there, someone asks you a question, and instead of answering, you are mentally diagramming the sentence. Is that a preposition? Wait, which tense is this? Do I use in or on?
And that is the trap. It creates this chain reaction, that delay. The time you spend trying to be perfect leads to hesitation. That hesitation signals to your brain that something's wrong, which leads to anxiety.
And anxiety is the ultimate block to fluency. You end up with what our sources call paralysis by analysis.
It's so ironic, isn't it? The brain power is actually getting in the way.
Meanwhile, you see people who might not be academic superstars, and they are chatting away, making mistakes left and right, but they are communicating. They're getting the job done.
Exactly. The average learner often improves faster because they just speak. They don't care about the mistakes. They aren't attaching their self-worth to whether they use the right verb ending.
So what's the key takeaway here?
It's that perfectionism slows down acquisition. Volume speeds it up. Fluency comes from repetition, not from correctness.
That is such a hard shift to make if you have spent your whole life being a perfectionist. It feels like you're asking people to lower their standards.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you have to accept that you cannot think your way to fluency. You can't intellectualize a physical skill. And speaking is, at its core, a physical skill.
This leads us right into the next big trap, which is the obsession with grammar. I feel like we have all been guilty of this. You buy the textbook, you memorize the charts.
The real book error.
Yes. The intelligent learner thinks, if I can just master the system, if I can memorize every tense, every conditional, every passive voice structure, then I will be fluent.
They treat English like it's a software manual. But that's a cognitive bottleneck. Real conversation moves way too fast for you to run mental grammar checks.
Native speakers aren't doing that.
Not at all. They aren't thinking, okay, now I need to use the present perfect continuous tense to indicate an action that began in the past and continues to the present. They are simply recalling patterns.
The source material used a really great analogy here that I want to highlight. It compared grammar to traffic laws.
I love this analogy. It's perfect. Think of grammar knowledge as knowing the traffic laws. You can memorize the driver's handbook. You can know exactly what a double yellow line means, what the speed limit is.
You can pass the written test with a perfect score. You're the expert on the rules of the road.
Exactly. But that doesn't mean you can drive the car.
Right.
Fluency is driving the car. You can know the laws perfectly and still stall the car in the middle of an intersection because your feet don't know how to work the clutch and the gas at the same time.
So smart learners spend way too much time studying the laws and not enough time behind the wheel.
They're prepared for the written test, but life is a driving test.
So if we stop memorizing rules, what do we do instead? Because we still need to speak correctly, right? We can't just throw words together randomly.
We do need correctness, eventually, but we get there through pattern learning. Instead of studying the formula-like subject plus have-has plus been plus verbing, you study usable phrases. You focus on the output.
So instead of analyzing the structure of the present perfect continuous, you just learn the phrase, I've been working on this.
Right, or I've been trying to call you, or I've been learning English. You learn them as chunks of sound that convey a meaning. You don't assemble them from scratch every time. You retrieve the whole chunk.
And that's how you get speed.
That's how you gain speed. It's like a pianist learning chords. They don't think finger 1 on C, finger 3 on E, finger 5 on G every single time. They just see the chord and their hand forms the shape.
That makes perfect sense. It's muscle memory versus calculation. And if you have that muscle memory, your brain is free to think about what you want to say, not how to say it.
Precisely. And speaking of calculation, that brings us to the next major hurdle. The mechanics of processing, or as I like to call it, the translation dependency.
This is the classic workflow. An idea pops into your head. You think of the sentence in your native language. Then you engage your internal translator to turn it into English. And only then do you speak.
And that extra step, that conversion process, is a speed killer. It just destroys conversational flow. You are essentially lagging in real life.
It's like trying to run high-end software on an old computer. The processor just can't keep up.
And it's not just about speed, it's about accuracy too. Translating word for word often leads to really awkward phrasing. The real goal, as our source points out, is to make English a direct response reflex.
There is a test in the source material for this, the tomorrow test.
Yes, it's a simple way to diagnose your own processing. If I ask you, what are you doing tomorrow? What happens in your brain? Be honest with yourself.
Do you translate it? Do you formulate an answer in your native language and then translate it back? Or do you just understand?
If you are translating, you are working too hard. We need to rewire the brain to bypass that step. We need to link the English word directly to the concept, skipping your native language entirely.
Okay, so how do we do that? Because you can't just tell your brain, stop translating. It's a habit.
No, you have to train it. The technique recommended here is simple self-talk. It sounds a bit strange and you might feel a little silly doing it at first, but it works. You essentially narrate your life in real time using very simple English sentences.
Like a sports commentator for your own boring life.
Exactly. You are walking around your house and you think, I am opening the laptop. I am making tea. I need to reply to this message.
It seems almost too simple for a smart person. Like, I am opening the laptop. That feels like baby talk. A CEO isn't going to want to walk around thinking, I am holding a cup.
And that resistance is part of the problem. But here is why it works. You are building the direct link between the action and the English words. Without your native language getting involved, you are forging a new neural pathway. You have to start with the simple stuff to build that reflex.
That brings up a really interesting point you just touched on, the idea that it feels like baby talk. This leads us to the psychological barrier, the ego.
This is huge, and it's the one people least like to admit, the fear of incompetence.
Right. If you are a high achiever, you are used to sounding smart. You are used to being the expert in the room. You speak eloquently in your native language. You have wit. You have nuance.
And then you switch to English, and suddenly you have the vocabulary of a 5-year-old. You sound, well, incompetent.
Yeah.
You can't make jokes. You can't express subtle disagreement.
And for a smart person, that is painful. It is an attack on their identity.
So they prefer silence.
The silence trap.
Yes. They would rather say nothing than say something imperfectly. They cannot bear the idea of public imperfection. They treat every conversation like a performance review.
Yeah.
But here's the reality check. You cannot edit silence into confidence.
The source draws a comparison to children here, and I think this is really important context.
Right. Think about how children learn. They speak in broken sentences constantly. Me want cookie. Doggy go run. Does that mean they're unintelligent?
No, it means they're learners. They prioritize communication over ego. They don't have that shame filter that says, oh no, I used the wrong pronoun, everyone will think I'm stupid.
But as adults, we have this massive filter. And if you want to learn, you have to adopt the messy speaking rule. You have to prioritize speaking first and refining later.
You have to be willing to sound a little bit foolish in order to become fluent.
You have to be willing to be the idiot in the room for a few months so you can be the expert forever after. It's about letting go of that image of yourself as the perfect professional just for a little while.
Okay, let's talk about how smart people actually spend their study time, because I think this is another area where logic fails us. We assume that if we input enough data, eventually output will just happen.
The consumption trap. This is the input-output imbalance. Smart learners are often voracious consumers. They read books, they watch TED Talks, they listen to podcasts like this one, they study vocab lists.
They are consumption machines, and they feel productive because they are absorbing information.
But they are poor producers. They don't produce enough output. And we have to remember the 4 skills of language.
Yeah.
Listening, reading, writing, and speaking.
And the hard truth is,
only speaking builds speaking. You can read 1,000 novels in English, and it will help your vocabulary, but it will not make your mouth move faster. It won't train your tongue to form the sounds.
you cannot read your way to verbal fluency.
It's like watching tennis matches on TV. You can watch Wimbledon all day, but it won't improve your serve.
So there's a specific metric the source gives for this, the 3.1 rule.
Yes, this is a great guideline to keep yourself honest. For every 3 units of input, you need to produce 1 unit of output.
So practically speaking, what does that look like? Because I think people struggle with how to output if they don't have a teacher.
It's simpler than you think. If you watch a 10-minute video on YouTube, don't just click to the next video. Stop. Take 3 minutes. Speak aloud about what you just watched. Summarize it.
Yeah.
Argue with it. Give your opinion.
And you don't need an audience for this.
Not at all.
Hmm.
In fact, it's better if you don't at first, so you don't have that ego pressure. Just record yourself on your phone. The goal is to build neural speed, getting the brain used to retrieving words and pushing them out of the mouth.
I like that. It turns passive learning into active training. Now, speaking of vocabulary, there is another specific trap for professionals, the engineer's dilemma.
Oh, yes. The technical vocabulary illusion. This is fascinating. You meet people who can discuss distributed parallel processing architecture or macroeconomic inflation trends without blinking.
They know the jargon of their field perfectly, but ask them to handle a casual social interaction.
And they freeze. They stumble over, "I'll get back to you."
Why is that? You'd think the big words are the hard part.
You would think. But technical language is often static. It's terminology. It's just labels. Daily conversation is fluid and relies on high-frequency chunks. It's the glue that holds conversation together.
And smart people focus on the bricks, the big nouns, but they forget the mortar, the small, functional phrases.
Exactly. They think, I know the complex terms, so the simple stuff should be easy. But they haven't practiced the simple chunks. And when they get stuck in a meeting, they don't know how to fill the silence.
So what are some of these chunks that act as fluency accelerators?
Oh, things like, that makes sense. Let me think. From my experience, what I mean is...
These are the phrases that buy you time, right?
Exactly. They smooth out the conversation. They make you sound fluent, even when you are thinking. If you can deploy these chunks automatically, you sound in control. If you have to construct them word by word, you sound hesitant.
So we have identified the traps. The perfectionism, the grammar obsession, the translation, the ego, the lack of output. Now let's get to the solution. The source outlines a specific daily routine to fix these issues in 30 days.
The 20-minute practical training plan. And I love this because it is time-boxed. Everyone has 20 minutes. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to move to London. You just need 20 focused minutes.
Let's break it down. Minute 0 to 5.
Phrase repetition. You take 20 common spoken phrases, not complex vocabulary, but those functional chunks we talked about, and you repeat them aloud over and over. You are building muscle memory.
It's like warm-ups at the gym.
Exactly. You want your mouth to be able to say, I've been working on this, without your brain even getting involved.
Okay, minute 5 to 10.
Shadowing. This is where you play a short clip of a native speaker and you repeat it sentence by sentence. But here is the key. You try to match their tone, their speed, and their emotion. You aren't just reading the words. You are mimicking the music of the language.
Because you're essentially acting.
Yes. You step out of your own identity and try on the cadence of a native speaker. It helps break that robot voice that a lot of learners have.
Minute 10 to 15.
Self-talk. This is the I am opening the laptop exercise. For 5 minutes, just narrate your reality. It forces your brain to switch to English mode for your immediate environment. It stops the translation engine.
And finally, minute 15 to 20.
Voice recording. Speak on a topic for 2 minutes. Anything. What you did today, a movie you thought, a problem at work. Record it. Listen to it. And here's the important part. Aim to improve it the next day.
So you are creating a feedback loop for yourself.
Exactly. If you do this for 30 days, just 20 minutes a day, you will see a measurable change. It's not magic. It's just shifting the focus from analysis to action. It's shifting from studying English to doing English.
It really does seem manageable. It's about consistency over intensity.
That's it. It's about recognizing that your intelligence is a powerful tool. But in this specific domain, it can be a trap unless you learn to turn off the editor in your brain.
So what does this all mean for our listeners?
It means that if you are struggling, you are not broken. You are just using the wrong map. You need to shift from rules to patterns, from silence to messy speaking, from input to output. You need to give yourself permission to be a learner again, rather than an expert.
I love the idea of messy speaking. It gives us permission to be imperfect. It takes the pressure off.
And that is where the growth happens. The growth is in the mess.
So here is our challenge to you today. Try the tomorrow test. See if you are translating, and maybe, just maybe, try narrating your next cup of coffee in English. I am pouring the water. I'm adding the sugar.
It feels silly, but it works.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It has been a real eye-opener on why being smart can sometimes make things harder and how to get out of your own way.
Always a pleasure.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one thought. We spend so much time trying to show the world how smart we are by being correct. But in language, maybe the smartest thing you can do is be brave enough to be wrong, because that is the only way you eventually get it right. Just drive the car. We'll see you next time.